Hey guys, welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista and we are on week 4 now. Today is the 22nd of January, so we are in meal 22. For tonight's dinner, we are making a Crockpot, and I'm probably not going to pronounce this right, Zuppa Tuscan soup. We just call it the Olive Garden soup. It's the one with the sausage and the spinach and the potatoes. Super, super yummy, and it is one of our favorites. So I am just getting everything started for that. I have to ground some sausage up first. I'm not going to be putting bacon in this one, just the sausage. So I need to get that ground up. This is about 1.5 pounds of a hot pork sausage. You can use mild, you can use just regular breakfast sausage. We just kind of like things spicy, so, and I have clean hands, don't worry. I'm gonna go wash my hands now. Well, that sausage is browning up. We are just gonna add the rest of our ingredients to the Crockpot. You do come back and add more ingredients, but we'll walk through it. So I am going to add, it calls for 32 ounces of chicken broth. I am using more sausage than the recipe calls for, so I'm actually going to add a quart and a pint of chicken broth. So that's a little bit over 32 ounces. We are going to use some of our canned potatoes here. I'm just using a quart of canned potatoes. I am going to rinse them, and I'm also going to slice them up a little smaller because they are pretty big. So I'm just gonna dice them up a little bit smaller because this recipe does call for a small diced potato in here. It's not in the recipe, but I am going to add probably a teaspoon and maybe almost 2 teaspoons of salt. And the reasoning is because I do not salt my broth when I make it, so I want to make sure that that saltiness is in there. Okay, and I think our sausage is done, so we have to add the garlic and onions. So because Stephen does not like onions, I don't use them a lot in my cooking. I did dehydrate a whole bunch of onions already, and look at, we're down hardly any. So I'm just gonna use the last of this. I do have to leave it out so I remember to put another load in the dehydrator. And then we are going to add about a teaspoon of garlic. Again, we like garlic. The recipe calls for about 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. So we're just gonna get this all stirred up here. If you are using an extremely fatty sausage, then you can drain it also when you are done cooking it. But this actually doesn't look that bad, so we're not gonna bother draining it. Just gonna get these all mixed in here and get them incorporated, and then we're gonna go and add them to our Crockpot, or our Instapot in my case. Okay, let's get this added in. I did leave some of the grease in the pan. Now we just need to get this stirred up. I'm actually going to add a little bit of pepper at this point as well. So if you were adding an onion and not like I did, you would add 1 medium onion to this, that you would add it to when you are frying it with the garlic and that. Lid needs to go on, get it turned into venting, and then do the slow cook feature, and then we are going to slow cook this for 5 to 6 hours on low, or high 3 to 4. We are gonna go the 6 hours on low, but we will come back and check it. My Instapot, again, if you haven't watched my other videos, unfortunately with the low feature, it is not functioning correctly. So we are gonna come and check this in about 3 hours and see how it's doing, and if it's really lagging, then we'll crank it up to high. And I will, if I can find this recipe, I will link it below for you guys in the description, because this is like literally this is our favorite one. So after the 5 to 6 hours or 3 to 4 hours, if you are doing it on high, then you are gonna come back and you are gonna add spinach and cream to this. But I will bring you along when we add that. So this is just gonna sit here all day and do its thing. So 6 hours is up. I'm gonna take the lid off. Now I came and checked on this when it was at about 3 hours, and I actually turned it up to high because I just didn't feel it was cooking good enough. So now what we're gonna do is we are just gonna give this a stir, and then we are going to add, now the recipe calls for 3 cups of baby spinach. I have this bag here. You can see the date, it's from June the 14th. This is from my garden, and you can also see that we have quite a bit of frost on it. So I need to get this used. Hopefully it's not too, it actually doesn't even look freezer burnt at all. It's just, it's got ice on it. So we need to get it used. So we're just gonna dump this whole bag into here. We like a lot of kale in it. We both really enjoy kale, so it's perfect just to have a lot in here. Probably more than 3 cups, but again, we like it. And then we are gonna add 1.5 cups of half and half. I'm just wanting to get it all incorporated so that it's good and mixed in. Okay, we're gonna put the lid back on it. Make sure it's still in the sealing position. And then we are going to cook this for an additional 30 minutes on high pressure. It'll be ready in 30 minutes. So I have some leftover sourdough bread here. I made this a couple of days ago, and sourdough does not stay fresh for very long. So what my intention to do with that sourdough is I want to kind of like thinly slice it so that it's like long ways, and try to make like a kind of like a crouton, but a really long one, so that it's kind of like a toast. I don't know if it's gonna work out, but that's my intent, to use that up because I am making another loaf for tomorrow. So gotta get that stuff used up. So I'm gonna try to do that. I'll do that once that is done so that those can be good and fresh when we go to eat them. So these are our breads. I just literally some of them I just sliced in half like that. I just put some butter, garlic, melted that all together, and then just topped it with a little bit of cheddar cheese and mozzarella that we had left in the fridge. I have the oven right now getting to 400 degrees, and then I'm probably gonna stick them in for about 15 minutes. The timer went off on the Instapot, so it is just now kind of sitting at warm. You guys can see in here, but it's perfect. So I'm just going to leave this on, and it'll just stay warm until our bread is done, and then we will plate it up. So I will show you guys once it's all plated up. Okay, there it is. Put some Parmesan on top of it. Oh, it is so good, guys. I absolutely love this meal. And then I have the finished breadsticks there. Super yummy. Day 22. We are on day 24 now. So for tonight's supper, we are actually going to have leftovers, but we're gonna have leftovers with a little bit of a twist. I am going to make some of these. We just picked these up from Aldi's. We like them. They taste okay, but they are very expensive. I think this thing was like almost $7 for this tiny little thing of hot dogs. Super expensive. But we are gonna have those, and then we are actually gonna have chili on top of them. So kind of like a chili dog. But I did not make buns. I was not feeling the buns today. So what I am going to do is I am going to make a cornbread. And I am making the cornbread out of this cookbook. This is my new favorite cookbook. So we're gonna make the cornbread from there. And I'm just gonna use this cornbread. I got this one from Azure Standard. So I am gonna get my oven preheated to 425, and I'm gonna throw my, I think this is a 10-inch cast iron skillet, I'm not sure. It's marked 6, I don't know. So I'm gonna put this in the oven and get this heated up as well with the oven. And then when I'm ready to put the cornbread into it, I'm just gonna take that hot skillet out. I'm gonna melt some butter in it, and then we're just gonna pour the cornbread on top of that butter. So let's get started in making the batter. Actually, first we gotta preheat the oven. And I still have not cleaned out the oven from the last fiasco with those lasagna roll-ups, how they boiled over. So my oven might be a little bit smoky. I think maybe that's gonna be tomorrow's project, is cleaning the oven out. We have the cast iron in the oven. So now we are gonna get our ingredients mixed into this large bowl. I absolutely love these vintage Pyrex bowls, the Cinderella ones, because you can just easily pour. I love them so much. We are gonna add 1 1/4 cup of, it says yellow, white, preferably stone ground cornmeal. So again, we are just gonna use this stuff. And we are gonna add 1 1/4 cup. Then we are gonna add 3/4 cups of flour to this. And it does say an all-purpose flour. So I'm just gonna use the stuff that I get from Azure Standard. It's the Central Millings all-purpose flour. Okay, and then we're gonna add 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. My baking powder is super chunky. I don't wanna get little bits in there. 1 to 4 tablespoons of sugar. So it lets you kind of judge what you want. I'm gonna go with 2. We'll meet halfway and we'll go with 2 tablespoons. And then we need 3/4 salt. Okay. And then it just says to stir this together. Actually, it says to whisk together. This is kind of good that we're doing because I'm getting all these baking powder clumps up by doing this. We're just gonna set this aside. And now we are gonna take 2 eggs and we are just going to beat them. Just gonna use the whisk to beat them. Now it does say you can use 1 to 2 eggs, and it says if you'd use the 2 eggs, it will be a richer cornbread. So we're definitely gonna use the 2 eggs. Okay, so we'll get this bowl back. To this dry mixture, we are going to add 1 cup of milk, and I am using a whole milk. We're gonna add those eggs that we just beat up. And then we are going to add 3 tablespoons of melted butter. So the recipe in this book says that you can add 2 to 3 tablespoons of melted butter, baking drippings, or vegetable oil. Baking drippings would be really, really yummy, and I unfortunately don't have any. So we're just gonna use 3 tablespoons of butter. While we're waiting for the oven to preheat and get that skillet nice and warm, I am just going to bring a pot of water to a boil because I am going to boil these hot dogs. Okay, so we have to whisk this all together. That butter melted from sitting on top of that cold milk, or the butter solidified from sitting on top of that cold milk. So we're gonna get this all whisked together. And it is a very rough texture because that cornmeal is not a fine ground cornmeal from Azure Standard. It's more of like a stone ground, so it's a little bit more grittier, but that's fine. And now we just wait for the oven to preheat, and then we are going to put it in for approximately 18 minutes. Okay, let's get this out of the oven. And I'm gonna put in about 3 tablespoons of butter. Actually might be too much. Take some of that out. 2 tablespoons. Let's pour this in here. And now we're gonna put this in the oven for 18 minutes. All right, the water is boiling now, and we're just gonna plop these frozen hot dogs in here. And then I got out our leftover chili. I just have to reheat this. You guys may think this is comical, but this just goes to show you I really do not cook with processed foods. I don't know when the hot dogs are done. I'm thinking they're done. I don't know. I'm gonna say they're done. I can smell the cornbread and it smells good, so we're gonna get it out. golden. That's what it looks like. That is everything. I got the chili heated up. Those are done, and that is done. There is quite a bit of tomatoes in that chili. It's just leftover chili. I made it, I think it's on the video from last week. So there is leftover tomatoes in this that is perfect for a vegetable. So we are just gonna get it all plated up now. The hot dogs are buried underneath the chili, and then we have the cornbread. This is like such a mishmash meal. I don't even know what it is, but this is what tonight is. So there we go, day 24. We are on day 26 today. So for tonight's supper, we are going to have grilled cheese, but not just any grilled cheese. I am going to use some bruschetta mix that I canned up. I'm gonna put that in. I'm gonna put some balsamic reduction on it. I'm gonna use mozzarella cheese and put some dried basil on it. So that's gonna be for mine. I'm not sure quite what Steven wants on his. And then we're gonna have it with some canned tomato soup. This tomato soup is so delicious. It is like a creamy tomato soup, so good. So I'm gonna go and get that stuff started right now. I also made up some custard earlier. It's just cooling down on here. We're gonna have that for dessert. We're gonna get the soup into this pot. I figured each of us would have a jar of soup, so I'm just gonna add 2 jars to this pot, and then we'll get it turned on about a medium heat. Turn this on to about a 4. Get that going. We're gonna cut the bread up first. I made a loaf of sourdough bread this morning, so we're gonna use that. I have my skillet here. This is the balsamic reduction I'm gonna put on mine. Oh, I also need to get out some basil. I didn't mean fresh basil, I just meant like basil from my garden. I wanted like the whole pieces. This is dried basil. Okay, so let's get this bread cut up. A little bit of a workout cutting this bread. Then we have the mozzarella cheese. I just got this cheese from a local cheese place. Well, it's not really local to us. It's about an hour east, I think. I got these like silicone bowl covers at IKEA, and the little one fits perfectly over top of this cheese. So this is how I store it. I've had this cheese for almost a month now, and it is not even close to going moldy. It's really, it works well. We will get Steven's made first. Our house is freezing cold, so this butter is very rock hard. He just wants a plain one. There's his plain Jane one. Guys, I canned up this bruschetta, and it is so delicious. The recipe for this is actually in the Ball Blue book for canning. It is just summer in a jar. It is really yummy. So I am gonna put some on. I'm gonna try to like drain. This is actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put cheese down first for mine. And then I'm gonna drain some of this liquid off so that it's not too liquidy. And now I'm gonna take some of this dried basil. I mean, there is basil in here also, but I love basil. Love it. Okay, put some dried basil on it. Obviously, if you've got fresh, use fresh, because fresh would be amazing on this. And then I'm gonna take some of this balsamic reduction and just spray it on top. And then, there we go. That's mine. Extra cheese. Whoops, this mozzarella just dipped in there. Looks like I'll have to eat it now. So I just showed Steven mine, and now he wants to have some of it also on his. So I'm going to put some, he said everything but the basil. So we'll just put some of this on there. I took a little piece of mozzarella and then I put this with it and then I drizzled this over it. Whoo, amazing. Guys, this is like I am so canning this next year again. It is so good. Okay, the butter is melted over here, so we're gonna get these in here. All I did with the mozzarella is I just took a little piece of mozzarella and I took, this is a mix of like pineapple tomato, and I think there's mortgage drifter and Abe Lincoln tomatoes. It tastes like summer right here. And then put a little, so good. There is my gourmet, that's a piece of basil, but that is my gourmet grilled cheese with my homemade tomato sauce. And then I'm gonna sprinkle some Parmesan on top of that. But that is the easiest, quickest pantry meal, but yet probably the most delicious. We are on day 27, and tonight we are going to make a Swedish meatball. So I have 2 packages here of meatballs that we had previously made and froze. We just vacuum sealed them. You know what? 12 is actually going to be enough. I'm going to put these other 7 back because that will definitely be enough for tonight's supper and leftovers. They're kind of in a rock right now. So I'm preheating the oven right now to 400, so we will wait for these to thaw a bit so that I can get them all lined up, and then we're going to cook them for probably about 25 to 30 minutes in the 400-degree oven. And then we will come back and, oh, also I have a pot of water here that I'm going to get boiling because we are going to make some of these noodles. These are just our homemade noodles that we made. So we'll get that boiling also. I am actually going to make this up really quickly. I don't know if you can see it. It's just a can of frozen grapefruit juice. These are a really good thing to keep on hand in the freezer. So I'm just going to make up some of this. It's nice to have a little bit of a treat on Friday. We normally don't drink juice, so this is considered a treat. Yeah, all done for supper. I just emptied a can of green beans, so I'm just gonna heat these up with some garlic and some butter, and that'll be really good for a side. Steven doesn't really like canned green beans. He prefers the pickled green beans, so I have some of those in the fridge that he'll have, but I'm gonna have these ones. We've got our water boiling over here. So I'm just gonna put some salt in it. And then a couple handfuls of this. These are just gonna be what we're gonna put the Swedish meatballs over top of. I just put a touch more in there because these are really good reheated with some butter and Parmesan. So if we have extras, then that is fine. We can just have that tomorrow for lunch. We are gonna check on our meatballs because I think they might be done. I'm also gonna turn this down so that it does not boil over. I think these are done. Yep, they are. Put these aside for a minute. Put this back on. Okay, and we're gonna turn this skillet on and we're gonna add 4 tablespoons of butter to this. And we're just gonna make a roux with this. So once this is melted, we are going to add 3 tablespoons of flour. And these noodles, because they're homemade, they literally take like only 5 minutes to cook, not even. It's just an egg noodle. We also need to get 2 cups of beef broth heated up. Okay, so we have our beef broth all nice and warm. This is all melted, so now we are gonna add the 3 tablespoons of flour to this, and then we are just gonna whisk it. So we're just making a roux with this. And it says just to cook it until it's nice and golden brown, which it is getting there very quickly. Just want to kind of cook that flour taste off of it. And it's smelling really nice and nutty right now. So we are going to add our 2 cups of warm beef broth to this, and we're going to slowly whisk it in. These noodles are done, so I'm going to take them off and drain them. And what we're doing with this sauce is we are just waiting until it just kind of comes to a boil and then keeps the boil. I want it to get bubbly like that. Let me get this drained first. Nice and bubbly. So what we're going to do now is we are going to add 1 cup of heavy cream to this. I don't have heavy cream. All I have is my whole milk. So I'm just going to use that. I may end up adding a tablespoon of butter just to make up for it if it's not rich enough. I did add a little extra flour also because the cream does help it get thicker, and because I'm using a thinner milk, that extra flour will help. I don't know if I'm using that and not my whisk. Okay, and now we want to add half a tablespoon of Worcestershire. I would like to add a little bit more because I really like that flavor. I'm going to add a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And then approximately half a teaspoon of pepper. I like to add a little bit more. And then we need half a teaspoon of salt. But because my broth was unsalted, I am probably gonna add about a teaspoon of salt, because I do find that this recipe always ends up to be not salty enough. So I'm gonna add extra salt, and then we're just gonna get it all whisked in and incorporated. You just wanna give this a couple minutes to get thick. And then once it's good and thick, we will add the meatballs in. We're gonna add the meatballs to this now. It is starting to thicken up a bit. Just get this all covered up. Guys, I had completely different plans for supper tonight, but I forgot to take the meat out last night. So I knew I had meatballs in the freezer. So I took the meat out for tomorrow night's dinner, but I also grabbed these because these are a quick and easy meal to make. What I'm doing right now is just kind of making sure that the sauce is covering them all. And I'm going to turn the heat down to low, put a lid on it, and we're going to leave it like this for about 10 minutes. And then we'll come back and check them, and they should be ready to eat by then. I think these are done. They are looking good. The sauce isn't as thick as it normally gets, but that's fine. It's nice to have a little bit of it runny over top of the noodles. So I am going to pull these off because I don't think this sauce will get much thicker, but it smells really good. So let's get this plated up. There's the yumminess. Noodles, Swedish meatballs, and I didn't end up putting any garlic in the green beans. It's just butter and green beans, salt and pepper, but they taste delish. So that was day 27. Okay guys, we are on day 29, and again I am straying from what I had originally planned tonight. I have been, since last night, I have been dealing with a pretty nasty headache. So I did not get to put the food into the crock pot this morning. So tonight's dinner is inspired by a, I guess, Instagram or TikTok video Stephen watched last night. And it is for a cheeseburger grilled cheese. Yes, we are having another variation of grilled cheese. It is literally the easiest thing to make. No soup tonight, just this. So it is from a website called delish.com, and what I'm doing right now is I am just getting 1 pound of ground beef browned up, and then once it is browned up, we are going to drain the fat, and then we're going to put it back in, and we're going to add some more ingredients to it to kind of make this mimic like a cheeseburger. This recipe does recommend you to saute some onions for this, but obviously we're gonna omit the onions. But what I am gonna do right now is I am going to put in some granulated onion. Just stir that in. And then once this gets all browned, we'll drain that fat off. I made a loaf of bread this morning, which is perfect timing. So we are just gonna get this cut up. Okay, now we have to get some mozzarella sliced up. We're gonna get this ground beef drained now because it is done cooking. We're gonna get the bread buttered up while the beef gets drained. It is pretty fatty beef. And we'll put the cheese on the bread right now. Just get it all set, because once that burger mix is ready, it literally, everything's just kind of goes. It's all ready. We're gonna turn this back on low, and we are going to put our ground beef back in here. This is why I drain it, guys. All that came out of it. To this pan, we are going to add a tablespoon, a little bit more, of Worcestershire, and we're gonna add a tablespoon of mustard. We're gonna add a teaspoon of garlic powder. We'll get it all stirred in. I am really looking forward to salad season because tonight I was craving a breaded chicken salad, but we don't have any lettuce, so I can't make that. I feel like this week we've just kind of not been eating the healthiest. So next week I'm probably gonna focus more on getting some a little bit more healthier food in. So we're just stirring this just to get everything incorporated. And once it's all incorporated, we're gonna take it off and put it in this bowl. We're gonna get it off now and just pour it into this bowl. We're gonna add a little bit of avocado oil on this. And then we are going to put our bread in here, butter side down. We got our cheese on it already. It says to put half a cup of this mixture on each sandwich. We'll just do it enough that it fits. It also says to put a tomato on this, to put some ketchup on this, and to put a pickle slice on this. We don't have any tomatoes, and I'm not really feeling to put pickles on it, and I definitely don't want ketchup on it. So I think what I'm gonna do, I do have our pickles out. I'm just gonna put them on the side instead of putting it on the actual grilled cheese, but that would, if you had a thinner slice, and I know I could slice my pickles a little thinner, but I'm really just being lazy tonight. That's about good. And so we will put this on top of this. Kind of push down on them. And then now we wait for them to cook. I'm just gonna put our leftover hamburger in here and we can have that tomorrow with something. I have this on a pretty low heat so that it's gonna cook pretty low and slow. Okay, let's give these a flip. Pray for the best. I think I'm gonna put a lid on it just to help the cheese cook quicker. These are done. I'm gonna turn the heat off. here's mine. Cut it open. That's what it looks like inside. Obviously, it would be a little bit more hamburgerish if it had the tomato and the pickle in it, but it's fine. Oh, we're just gonna put some pickles on my plate, and that is day 29's supper. Not fancy. Okay, well that was week 4, and I cannot believe that it is already over and we are now going into week 5. I am going to be taking this pantry challenge into February, and fingers crossed we can get through the month of February. I have kind of given myself a little bit of an allotment. I said to Stephen that I am going to allow us to have a budget of $25 for groceries in the month of February, and that is pretty much just to go and get some fresh produce because we really need some. I really need to eat something fresh. So I said that that was going to be an exception for the month of February, but pretty much other than the $25, we are still going to be eating from our pantry. So I will still be making these weekly videos through the month of February. Typically, I like to get them out on Mondays for you guys after the week, but like this video is coming out on a Wednesday. I had another one that I wanted to get out first for you guys, so sorry about the delay. Anyways, I have linked all of the recipes below that I know where the recipes came from. I put the links below in the description for you guys so you can check them out and try them yourselves, because that Olive Garden soup is amazing. Such a good recipe, and I hope you guys give it a try. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you on the next video. Bye, guys.